Have you ever looked at your profit and loss statements or your tax return at the end of the year and thought to yourself, where did the cash go? Managing your cash is critical to the financial health of your business, and the key to running a business is to have more cash today than you did yesterday. And if that's not happening, we need to find a way to get your cash flow back on track. My name is Cherie, and I'd like to welcome you to the 60/40 Cash Flow series. This series will focus on the 14 things that you can do to begin to take the control of the cash flowing in and out of your business. For the past 15 years, working with my accounting practice clients, I've helped hundreds of small business owners to work less, earn more, and to create a business that supports the lifestyle that they want. Is that what you want? Because these tips are just the start of how we can help you do the same. So tip number 10 in our cash flow series is controlling your work in progress, or WIP. Work in progress is part of the cash conversion cycle. If you aren't sure what that is yet, please be sure to check out our other video around what that is. To really control your cash, it is essential to have an understanding of the overall cash conversion cycle as it relates to your business. Work in progress, or WIP, is tied very closely to inventory, but it's not the same thing. In a nutshell, WIP is basically the costs assigned to an unfinished project. So they are partially finished goods awaiting completion. So you'd start with raw materials, that leads to WIP, and then when complete leads to finished goods. The distinction is that a finished good is ready to be sold or delivered to the client, whereas WIP is unfinished work. It's the raw materials and labour part of the work that you've done but haven't built out yet. And this is where us tricky accountants come in as well, with all of our costing methods. So just as it is with inventory, when coming up with the value of work in progress, just always make sure you're using the same valuation methodology and comparing apples with apples. On the money meter, this affects money in and out, but mostly money out. The reason it does affect money in is because it affects the cash conversion cycle. The faster you can deliver your end product, the greater the opportunity to speed up your cash cycle. It will affect mostly the money out though, because this is where you'll be paying your suppliers or overheads necessary to produce the goods or service, so that makes the impact of this very high. If you're a service-based business, you will be incurring labour costs towards the production of the deliverable, but you just won't have invoiced it yet. The ease to implement a WIP management system is medium. There are a number of projects that you can do surrounding managing your WIP, and they'll all help you to manage your cash flow more effectively. Your goal in controlling your WIP is to shorten the time frame between the order to the delivery of the end product, or to the completion of milestones along the way that will then help you to quickly convert those works into cash. The brainstorming session on this tip is to consider these two questions. What can you do to drive down your WIP days? And 2, have you considered budgeting your WIP not just in dollars, but in time? What do you think might be the benefit of a time-based budget versus a dollar one? If you have any questions or would like to let us know what you've come up with, make sure that you connect with us on Facebook or LinkedIn, and if you use LinkedIn, use the hashtag GrowWith6040 to let us know what you came up with. The YouTube extra content will cover off on the 3 things that you can do to look at controlling your WIP. The following points are super relevant to a service-based business. But if you do have a manufacturing business, these tips are still relevant, but your focus would be on managing the raw materials and minimizing the overall time spent turning the raw materials into finished goods for sale. The first point is to measure what matters. One of the famous quotes by Peter Drucker is, "What gets measured gets managed." So measuring your WIP definitely matters. In a service-based business, you can have a lot of potential profit tied up in your WIP, so you absolutely need a way to report and manage this, ideally daily, but weekly if you have to, as it could help prioritize completion of tasks. The goal here is to shorten the cash conversion cycle to within an inch of its life. So, can you think of a way that you could quickly get a snapshot of the value you have tied up in your WIP? If you use time tracking software, this just might be looking at the standard reports already available, or even customizing your own. If you don't use time tracking and you do carry a lot of WIP, this might be a great time to look at introducing this type of software into your business. The second is budget. If you do have WIP, do you have a budget for the jobs that make up your WIP? If not, how do you know how you're going? Or if you already do have budgets, do you actually follow this up by monitoring them with your team members? Have you established performance standards for turnaround times so that you can shorten that cycle? If you have established performance standards, do these actually get reviewed to see where there's opportunities for improvement or that the task was completed on time? The third point here is to find the right people in the right jobs. Are the right people doing the right jobs in your workflow process? To know this, you need to know your workflow process, but hopefully after working through these tips so far, you might have already identified each step there. This will help you identify whether you have the right functional role attached to the step in that process. And once you know the functional role, then you can hire for that purpose. By clearly outlining the workflow process steps, it can enable easily identification of any problems. And if there's any rework required, then getting the person who caused the rework involved in its correction can lead to a learning opportunity when done in a positive way. A word of caution here is don't always assume intent when there is an issue. The team member generally won't be intending to have done it the wrong way. There just might be a few gaps in the process or in the training for that role. So it's best to resolve the process issues first. This is a just culture approach and supports the fact that you should lead people and manage the activity. As a business owner, it's your responsibility to design systems that will minimize human error with the added benefit that it enhances accuracy and provides for improved productivity.
Thanks for listening to this tip in our cash flow series. We've got more to come, so keep an eye out for them as they're released on our social channels, or sign up for our email list where you can get a fast pass to access these tips and more. So just head on over to our site at www.6040.io/cashflow and get your access today. So there's 14 tips in total in this series, and we'd love to have you back. Have an awesome day.